Heartbreaking upset coming out of the Tokyo Olympics. You all heard about it from the U.S. women's gymnastics team. Four-time Olympic champ and one of the most famous athletes in the world, the greatest of all time, Simone Biles, withdrawing in the middle of the finals, crushed by concerns about her own mental health and well-being.
I took a step back because I didn't want to do something silly out there and get injured. So it's been really stressful, this Olympic Games. I say put mental health first, because if you don't, then you're not going to enjoy your sport and you're not going to succeed as much as you want to. So it's okay sometimes to even sit out the big competitions to focus on yourself, because it shows how strong of a competitor and person that you really are, rather than just battle through it.
You know, Dana, the pressure on these kids, she's not a kid, she's 24, but it is crushing. And there's so much. She said, the weight of the world is on my shoulders. And remember, she's like a survivor of that sexual abuse ring, that awful Larry Nassar. Do you feel overwhelming sympathy for her? Are you disappointed as an American who wanted the?
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm a big fan of hers, and I think also what she's been able to accomplish physically and technically in the world of gymnastics. I don't know if we'll actually see people anyone in our lifetime be able to do that. I mean, it was just absolutely almost defied the law of physics. But I also think that her teammates, a lot of disappointment. I mean, there was a big buildup. Out of this Olympics, the person most recognized would be, I guess, Simone Biles, maybe Katie Ledecky, who also, you know, she barely lost, you know, last night. But that young 17-year-old girl from Alaska, she surprised everybody and got the gold. So I wish Simone the best. I hope that the rest of the team can go on, and we'll, you know, if she decides to talk more about it, great. But I also want to mention one other thing, which is the United States ended up with the silver, but the Russian Olympic Committee got the gold. And the Russians were kicked out of the Olympics for the doping scandal, but their Olympic Committee gets to compete. And I think that that is wrong. So we can be disappointed for Simone and then be mad at the Olympic Committee for allowing that, because that seems unfair.
She said, we hope America still loves us. Jesse, you still love her?
She is beloved, Geraldo. We all know that. And yes, she's most decorated female gymnast of all time. This is her third Olympics. And she had a breakdown, and she pulled the car over to the side of the road and said, I've had enough. I get it. And she had a good run, but I'll say this. We still
hold his hand. Hold his hand.
No, I'm not going to say anything about it. We still medaled. So we got the silver. Right now we're ahead of China in the total medal count by about 4 medals. So it wasn't as painful as it could have been if we hadn't medaled. But at a certain point, I think to myself, I can barely touch my toes, Geraldo. I can't sit here and criticize her. It's very difficult.
Do you think, you heard the conversation during the commercial break where Jesse was...
Don't reveal the commercial break. Commercial break talk.
Saucier in his...
No, I wasn't.
No, he wasn't. I talked to a friend of mine who was an elite gymnast and is a gymnastics coach.
I thought that was a private conversation.
No, I'm not.
Anyway, go ahead.
As I was doing splits. On Dana's point about Russia, the gymnastics team was very upset by the preliminaries because they got the scores and deductions were way off and favored Russia. Oh. That was part one. If Simone Biles is competing at such a high level, you can't water it down and dial it back. There is just no such thing. And as she was running for that vault, she's running about 15 miles per hour or more. You will be catastrophically injured if you're in your own head and not competing, as you normally would. And in terms of the Larry Nassar scandal, this is her first Olympic Games since that scandal broke. It broke right after the Rio de Janeiro Olympics. So it's not unfathomable to think that there is some post-traumatic stress going on here. And she's not allowed to have the support system in Japan as she would because of COVID. But again, this is an incredible woman. The all-around is Thursday. Let's hope she's competing in that. Well, I mean, we're all rooting for you, Simone Biles.
I've got 5 kids, 3 girls, and they compete in little tiny things over their lives, and each one is so, your stomach churning. Mm-hmm. Do Do you cut slack to someone who has that kind of pressure?
Well, as you know, Geraldo, this is why I didn't participate in the Olympics, because I just find it demoralizing, and it's just very hard on your spirit. Look, this is a national, global disgrace.
What is?
I'm kidding. She can do whatever she wants. You know, I wasn't watching the Olympics. I'm not watching it now. Her decisions have no effect on my life. This has been a rough period for everybody. I'm not surprised if these athletes are having a hard time. This is the weirdest Olympics ever, perhaps the worst Olympics ever. So, you know what? Whatever she wanted to do, she probably did the best thing. I can't pretend to care. I could be like Adam Kinzinger and start crying, but I won't.
Unlike Greg, we care, Simone. So we send you love from the 5 to